All right, YouTube, I'm back, and this time I'm covering this new trend where they're calling these young people NEETS, NEETS, and another group of young people the new unemployables. So the differences in both of them are the new unemployables are trying to get jobs, but they're struggling, even though they're sending in resumes, going on interviews, but for some reason the employers just aren't offering them the job, and we're going to get more into that. But then you also have this new term called NEETS, and they're deciding not to work in corporate America at all. And I think by young, I'm thinking this is probably Generation Z, people born 1998 to 2012, give or take. And CNBC is covering this. And we know they added 206,000 jobs in the United States in June. And here it says unemployment rate is just at 4%. And so let's get more into it, because I've never heard this term before, and I want to go through it. And it's just more young people trying to go their own way. That's what I'm thinking. So we got this here, below 4%. And it says not everyone who wants a job has one, and not everyone even wants a job at all. So, okay, this is where this term comes from. NEETS, NEETS. So it stands for not in employment, education, or training. These acronyms, I'll tell you. And these are people that are opting out of the workforce because they are discouraged by how the economy is. So basically, these are people who look at the economy, the inflation, and the unemployment, and the low paying jobs, and they just say, okay, we're just not going in that direction altogether. So it seems to be people who are just fed up. They're not trying to train, they're not trying to go into any form of entry level jobs. They just lost confidence in the country, the economic system, based on what we've been seeing. And so these are people who, I don't know what their plans are, but they don't even have a job to quit in order to not even have a plan B. Now I understand where they're coming from in terms of low confidence in the economy, but this is definitely a new term that I haven't heard of. And then you got the other end of the spectrum where you got the same group of young people, and so they're qualified, but they're having a hard time getting hired. And so you get the whole overqualified, underqualified. That's definitely nothing new. So you got two different groups of young people, and looking at the ones who they call the new unemployables, I guess that gives more support to the NEETs, the NEETS, as to why they're just saying, why bother trying to work in the first place? They're not even going to hire me. So there's definitely some concerns here, especially if you've got children under 25. They're in that 21 to 25 range, done with college or about to be done, and whatever that outlook is on securing a job, a decent paying job, so they can put money into retirement and actually save up a little nest egg. And so let's go down a little further, and then this gives a little graph of all of the young people who are not working in the United States for the last 2 years. It's kind of going up and down. And then you see it as of May this year, 2 months ago, and it's at 9.2%. So it's pretty high. And it's just showing the direction a lot of young people are going in terms of a traditional job. And I personally don't think, especially Generation Z, is going to work 40 years and then retire like the baby boomers did. and those are people born 1948 to 1964. Talking two different generations here, and a different outlook on cost of living and what was affordable then and what's affordable now. And obviously everything's gone has gone way up. So we scroll down a little further. And so here we go. Yeah, 16 to 24, that's definitely Generation Z. So I guess they're including people still in high school and the employment rate as well. I guess that makes sense. 16-year old enough to work without a work permit. And so it says among 16 to 24-year-olds, unemployment rate is at 9% in May of this year. And they're saying it's normal. And then in 2023, it fell a little bit below 7%. But they said the labor market was real hot at that time. I think that was near the end of the overhiring that a lot of companies were doing, and which led to a lot of the layoffs as well later on in 2023 going into this year. And then let's see, what else do we have here? And so they're saying 9% is what we should be expecting when you have a good economic times for younger workers. This is coming from one of the economists. So now let's get more into the NEETS, why they feel left out and left behind. And so they're neither working and they're not even trying to learn new skills, which, would make them unemployable as well. But they don't feel like it's going to be worth it, that it'll just be a waste of time and they won't really get anywhere with it. So I think a lot of just confidence is just low. And, the younger generation is definitely different. Generation Z, definitely different. So roughly 1 in 10 young people are being left out and left behind in many ways. And so that age group, 15 to 24, they're considered NEETs according to the International Labor Organization. And so I'm wondering with this, what's their plan? I'm assuming they're all living at home with mom and dad at the moment. So and they're not involved in the system in any way. And then, like I said, you got the opposite, the ones who are trying to get hired, but they're just not getting the callbacks from the companies to get a job offer. Either they're not getting an interview at all, or they're getting an interview, but they're not getting a second interview to make it to the next round. So that's definitely can be discouraging with the job hunting. That's a job all in itself. And this is interesting here. It said it's mostly more men doing this, not the women. I guess some ladies are involved in it, but it's more men that are opting out of work. So let's go a little bit further into that in terms of why the young men don't want to work. So they're saying it's due to opportunities in traditional male roles. They're not there anymore. Construction is down, manufacturing is down. I know they've taken trades out of the high schools over the years. And the women, they go to school for education. When they go enroll in schooling, education outcomes and employment outcomes have mostly been better. I think women are applying for more behind the desk jobs, and then the men who want to do hands on, that's not around. Factories are closing, jobs are being outsourced. So I think that's something to look into, and what these young men are, gravitating to in terms of what they want to do for an income. And down, moving on to the more of the what they call the new unemployables, talent hoarding. Let's see. So let's go a little bit more into that. Uh, a perfect storm has also created a lot of new unemployables or highly trained workers who struggle to find opportunities. So employers are retaining their workforce and then just trying to mobilize what they already have. So I'm guessing that may save the company money, and they just trying to develop who they already have on their team, which is not helping the younger people actually get their foot in the door and gain some experience until those older people make their way out. So that's definitely can be a problem from generation to generation. So the job openings are less, even for people who are qualified, because companies are basically just retaining their current employees and then just developing them since they already know the role and they don't have to do as much training. So I guess that benefits the corporation. But for your child who may just be coming out of college, graduated within the last 4 years, it makes it tough. And on top of that, having to pay back student loans while living at home with mom and dad with no job. So it definitely is creating a storm. So we keep it moving a little bit further with this NEETS and new unemployables. Firms are scaling back on new hires. So entry level opportunities are not there like they used to be. Then it said the teen employment rate for people in high school is the highest it's been in over 10 years. People in their early 20s, that's Generation Z again, are having a hard time finding jobs. 20 to 24, that's definitely Generation Z. My nephew is in that. He's right in there. He's born 1999. So that puts him at 20. This is year 25 for him, but he's still Generation Z. So he's right in that group. So they've seen a massive drop off of labor force participation during the pandemic. And then everyone's been behind ever since. Yeah, the pandemic really turned things upside down. Like I said, inflation. So here we go, the college class of 2024 of this year. And the odds of them getting a job fell 5.8% from 2023, according to the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And so just those numbers right there kind of deters the needs and just people coming out of high school say, why go to college if my chances of getting employed have dropped and then I'm coming out with debt and no way to pay it back. So it's definitely some concerns there. And then as more new job candidates compete for the lack of positions, unemployment is also beginning to lengthen. I've heard about unemployment being on the rise in addition to the inflation. And now this says number of people unemployed for longer than 6 months is up by 21%. So people who've been out of work for 6 months or more, that number is starting to go up in terms of the percentage if they haven't found a job in less than 6 months. So let's see here, unemployable to employable. So I guess here's some hope here. Don't wait to reach out. Get in touch with old employers if you can, or colleagues through LinkedIn. I guess this is going back to the whole, it's not what you know, it's who you know. The thing is, for the younger ones that are 20 to 24, they don't have those type of connections unless their mom and dad knows someone. This will more apply to people probably in their late 30s or in their 40s, so moving into millennials and Gen Xers. And then ask for any job leads or connections. Sounds good. Probably easier said than done. And then it just gives a little updating the resume, and don't just focus on promotions or raises with the money. I guess try and take a lower position to get skills, which comes with lower pay. I don't know how people feel about that, especially the more experienced ones. But I guess you do want to have something coming in to stop you from digging into your savings. Something is better than nothing. Everybody's situation is different in terms of what they're responsible for. For those that still living home with mom and dad, obviously they have the advantage. But this is my first time hearing of NEETS. But in reading through it, I'm not surprised about what's going on, especially in this economy. And the younger generation is different. Definitely have lost confidence in the educational system as well as the whole job system. They go hand in hand. So how do you all feel out there if you are parents and you got someone who just graduated this year or in 2023 from college? Did you just graduate, or are you a more experienced person who's been struggling to find work or struggling to find something better than you already have? How many of you out there trying to get to a second job to make ends meet, to cover expenses? That's all definitely something to think about. I'm also a fan of lowering your lifestyle. You got to stay down. You don't want to go over budget, buying things you don't need, putting things on certain payment plans that if you actually had the money to do it, you wouldn't have to use any of that. So I'm looking at all different angles in terms of saving money, increasing money, especially with articles like this. This is uh, definitely very informative. That's why I wanted to cover it. And this is July 1st when this was published. So yeah, it's definitely recent. It's from this month. So yeah, what do you all think in the comments? How are you feeling about the current economy, jobs, and does this article really hit home for you? And what boat are you in? Let me know in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe. And another video will be on the way. I'm going to keep them coming. Thanks for listening. I'm out.